Our featured speaker today is a Microsoft Certified Gold partner and our host today for this event here at Microsoft. Please welcome the CEO of Matrix Force, Mr. Kevin Freem.
In the brightest day, in the darkest night, no evil will escape my sight. Those who worship evil's might, beware my power, Green Lantern's light. He was always my favorite superhero. He wasn't as cool as Superman or Batman. He was kind of quirky like me. But he knew things, and he rhymed. And he could do all the things the other superheroes could do. He could fly, he had super strength. But kryptonite didn't get him down. Loud noises didn't confuse him. His only weakness was fear. I was born 6 weeks premature, barely 4 pounds. I could fit easily within the palm of my father's hand. Oh, I don't care what it is, a boy or a girl, just as long as they're healthy and have all their fingers and toes. Well, I didn't look like other kids, and I didn't have all my fingers. But I learned early on what ridicule really was. And I knew that my handicaps were really nothing compared to my cousin Mark's, who had muscular dystrophy, had to wear braces on his legs, couldn't extend his arms. Most of his friends couldn't even speak, and all of them would die by 15. If you're a fan of Ralphie and the Christmas Story, that was me, running home every day. Ah! It was a 4th grader. He was twice my size. I had to explain every day why my knees were all dirty. Why didn't I have my belt that day? And then one day, I stopped. I don't know why. And I turned around and tackled him. And I punched him 1-2, nose and eye. I never had to run home from school again. But it didn't give me any pleasure because I knew that it was easy to hurt people. That's my approach with clients. I work harder. I kind of just know things and come at you at a different angle. But cybersecurity is scary enough that I'm not going to sell fear. I think it's more important of how you make your money than how much money you make. I'm going to encourage all of you today to have the courage to increase your understanding of cybersecurity, to take some action, and most importantly, protect those around you. We're going to cover 7 things that hopefully you've never heard today. One of my favorite mentors, other than Clint Arthur, is Simon Sinek. And you really need to change your thought process when you talk about cybersecurity. Simon Sinek talks about 2 things over and over. And the first thing he talks about is game theory. And no, it's not about video games. He talks about there are finite games, like basketball, one of my favorites. There's rules, right? So much time for a quarter, you have fouls, you have shots, that kind of stuff. At the end of the game, it's who's head, we're done, it's over, and we'll go home. That's a finite game. All of you have been pre-programmed, and it's a myth and it's wrong, that in business, I'm going to win. I'm going to be number 1. Who said? Based upon what? None of you get together once a week and decide what the rules are and who's ahead and what the score is. Success is different for everybody. And that's what Simon Sinek talks about is infinite games you play like business or like the Cold War that we currently have going on with Russia. You play until you don't have any resources or you just don't have the will to continue. That's the way you need to think about cybersecurity. Simon does an interesting thing. He talks about the why. Everything you do should start with the why. Don't tell them how you do or what you do. Tell them why first and then work outwards. The reason why I do cybersecurity is because I really love it when business owners understand that cybersecurity can be used for competitive advantage. I hear it over and over. We spend a lot of money. This is cost plus. This is the cost of doing business. It's not. You should have something to show for your clients, for your customers, that you're serious about cyber protection. Now, in front of you, I have an application. If you don't do anything else today and take action, please fill in the contact information and check the box to say, hey, I want the free data breach training. None of you are sitting there in that seat and have a weekly update for your staff or yourself of what's going on in cybersecurity, a 1-minute video, no sales pitch, no obligation, and very few of you have gone through and what is a data breach and what shouldn't do. It's a 12.29 value by itself. In addition, if you'll see me afterwards, I'm going to give you a copy of my #1 best-selling book, Easy Prey. In addition to that, you will have the invitation for the upcoming corollary, Cyber Prey, the practical guide to cybersecurity. On top of that, every week we're coming out with new stuff to educate people. And one of the reasons why I got involved with Clint Arthur and to be on TV, he said, Kevin, you're not doing enough about this ransomware and identity theft issue. You really need to speak it over and over. And so there's even more things to do there. My life has been defined by a series of physical handicaps and life's hardships. But these adversities have become my advantage. I was born with a rare condition called brachydactyly, which meant I had a lack of blood flow to my extremities, causing my hands to be deformed. From early age, my mother and father were divorced. Now, I always knew it was because of me. I lived with Mom in a small farmhouse in rural Oklahoma, and Dad was far away in Tulsa. Because money was tight and the distance long, I rarely got to see him until he died suddenly when I was 16. With Coke bottle glasses and a speech impediment, I could have been a character out of Rocky. You know the scene where Paulie says to Adrian, you don't have much of a body, so you got to use your brain. Well, that could have been me. I knew I couldn't do things with my body, so I had to try hard and do things with my brain. It was hard, but I became the valedictorian of my high school. I went on to get a scholarship to college, Tulsa University, the first in my class, and the only one in my family to go to college. I just loved computers and went into MIS. I just kind of knew what they were and how people could use them and use them for business. I landed my dream job in a Fortune 500 firm consulting all over the nation. And then one day, my young wife, at 32, she couldn't breathe. What's wrong? She couldn't talk. She had a brain aneurysm that leaked instead of burst, or she would have died. But she had a massive stroke. I literally had to pick her up and drag her out of the house. Left the front door wide open, put her in the car, we rushed to the emergency room. It was a 9-month recovery. During that time, I had to do everything for her. And she had to learn to walk, talk, read, and write. I couldn't be flying all over the nation being this high-priced consultant anymore. I had to focus on the business. So I bought the business, and despite all my efforts, I had pirate engineers that told lies and really corrupted the market, sullied my reputation, whether true or not, all for the greed of billable hours and the sales of product. It was then that I kind of put everything together, and I created the Delta method, because I decided that most people can't deal with technology. They don't understand it. And I have an empathy for a lot of things and can embrace that with them. That's the biggest thing that most people don't understand. Most business owners are just trying to get ahead, but they have IT support that's motivated against them. Have the courage and use a vetted IT support and someone with a Delta method that's on your side. And that's who I am. I want to start with a little bit of brevity because this is a little scary stuff.
So back to this this hack, this Equifax hack. I mentioned earlier, they may have compromised the information of 143 million Americans, which is a lot of Americans. So in light of this, as a service to the public, we've actually done this before, and it's very effective. We asked people who are passing by our theater today what password they use to protect their personal information. And pay attention, please, because there are a lot of important tips to be shared here.
We are talking to people about the cybersecurity breach at Equifax, and in light of that, we're asking people how secure their internet passwords are. What do you use for an internet password?
You know, I usually stick to my last name. That's probably not the best thing to do, but I usually stick to my last name, a few digits, maybe like a hashtag or something, or...
How do you spell your last name?
Walker.
Walker?
Yeah.
W-A-L-K-E-R?
Yeah.
And then just a few numbers?
Yeah, I probably should have told you that.
And then a hashtag.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The numbers, like, what do you use, like your birthday or something, your area code?
Yeah, usually like my birthday.
How old are you?
21.
21? What day you born?
November. No, the day, sorry, the 29th.
29th of November?
Yeah.
So Walker, 11/29/95.
Woo! I probably shouldn't say that, but...
That's okay.
Yeah.
How strong is your internet password?
Strong.
What sort of things do you use?
Capital letters, lowercase letters, numbers, characters, everything.
What's a current password you're using?
I don't really want to tell the current password that I'm using, to be honest.
You think I'm a hacker?
Not necessarily. Well, I mean, I guess, you know, like 63XJ9 hat symbol, @ symbol, basically. All characters, pretty random assortment, and I just try to memorize.
Use that one?
Yes.
Thank you. What is your internet password that you use for your email?
In and Out 2017.
That was easy.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
My internet password is capital W @TER capital B 0 NG water bong.
Yeah, we probably could guess that one.
My internet password is okay.
Yeah.
Mila for what's MILR64.
Well, that's nice. Now Americans can hack into a Russian website. No, that'd be fun. Hello, sir. What is your name?
Jerry Reed,
Jerry, where are you from?
Whittier, California.
What do you do out there? besides scare school children? How strong is your internet password?
I'd say pretty strong.
Yeah, what sort of things do you use for it?
You know, things that I like.
What sorts of things do you like?
Maybe a dog, an animal, a place I've been, someone I know.
So like Rover mental ward.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, well, that's... Jerry, don't worry. Don't worry at all. Your secret is very safe with us, okay?
Well, thank you.
Okay, you just keep this between all of us.
Thanks, Jimmy.
All right, you're welcome, Jerry. All right.
So after Comey, James Traynor took over for the FBI and he's head of the cyber division. And he makes a really good point, and it's not me saying it. There's not one thing that you can do. There's no silver bullet. And the reality is you probably are going to be attacked. One of my favorites is Brad Smith. He's the president of Microsoft. I know Kat Daniels is going to get me a selfie with him at Inspire here in July. But he did a tremendous presentation in 2016, and he talked on the worldwide stage about there is no Geneva Convention for cybersecurity. You have to think about that. I mean, we've done it with Stuxnet against Iran. Obviously, we have all the controversy around elections from Russia. It's a $2.5 trillion business for cybercrime. Put that in perspective, that's larger than our whole damn industry of information technology. This would usually be the time where I would turn on all your cell phones and send you a text message, because it's pretty easy, just like the Amber Alerts, it's easy to send those. I could also send you an email at the same time. Because I want we arrested him here at Microsoft, that didn't happen today, but even in 1989, we had a temp that came in, and his only job was to take a piece of equipment and update it. Really simple, right? He couldn't wait long enough, and he would always rip it out and unplug it before it was done, and it was damaged and destroyed, and we couldn't do anything with it. We had to order new chips. I want you to think about Armageddon because, you know, I call it the BIOS pop, and I invented it in '89. I could send you an email to your phone, to your computer, and all it would do would damage the BIOS, and so the computer wouldn't start up. I could do the same thing on your phone. Any device, your refrigerator, that kind of stuff. That's what Armageddon looks like, people. In an instant, people could be back to the Stone Ages and not have electricity, running water, anything. I don't get paid for my political input, but if there's any bills that come around that talk about anything around the digital Geneva Convention, that's really the issue today, is you don't have any help. Law enforcement can't help you because they don't know who's attacking you. FBI can't really help you because they may be outside the country. The evolution of crime started with pretty much a knife, and people said, you know, hey, we'll hold up people. And then it went to a gun and said, hey, we can hold up several people. And finally, it went said, we're not getting enough people, and we need to do the wagons, and we need to do the trains. You know, my favorite story from Texas is in 1840. Gangs came to town. They shot the sheriff first. They were robbing people. They were raping women. The town council got together. They called the Texas Rangers. They did it by telegram at that time. 3 days later, the train comes in. They know that the Texas Rangers are going to be there. One guy gets off with a horse. They say, "Where's the rest of you? Are you the Texas Rangers?" He says, "Yes, I'm the Texas Rangers. One riot, one ranger." It's kind of a funny story, but that's where we went with crime. And if you remember the 80s, before doctors even had pagers, before our industry even had pagers, who had pagers? Drug dealers. They had all the technology. If you look in the upper right, today the Mexican drug cartels have their own encrypted network to run their own internet, to run their own cell phones. Everybody thinks about Die Hard 4, and it's the lone hacker in Mama's basement there with all the Star Wars memorabilia. But the reality is there are armies in China, Russia, all over the world. Some of them are just state-paid companies. And that's their only job, is to wake up every day and write programs to find you. Everybody's patched. You hear in the rare circumstances that somebody wasn't updated, but everybody's patched. Everybody has antivirus, but today antivirus is not good enough. You all are just numb to the numbers. You hear it every day. Yeah, this happened. It was a big company, whatever. I tell the story on TV all over the nation. With the Equifax breach, there's over 145 million Americans and all their dependents, and they're going to be dealing with this for the next 100 years as criminals slice and dice all these lists and sell them over and over. You can't play defense anymore. It's time to play offense. For not a lot of money, anybody can get a card cloner. For not a lot of money, you can buy and sell people's iTunes accounts. Some of them are even free. My favorite is pleaserobme.com, where people post on Facebook, I'm on vacation, or I've checked in somewhere, and it automatically is listed that you're away, and you have your address that's listed from Facebook, and people go and rob you. It's all really easy. Now, if you're thinking about Die Hard 4 and that picture again, and that lone hacker, you're saying, well, listen, I'm small. Nobody's going to come after me. Well, the reality is they're not looking for you. They're just running programs. Yeah, there's armies of people sitting at computers, and that's their day job, but all they do is run a program. And when something comes up as a hit, that's when you get on their radar and they actually start doing something. Count the number of people in your row. 3 of you are going to get hacked. Now, you may say, Kevin, forget all this. I'll just get some cybersecurity insurance and we'll jump to the end. Forget about it. It's not much. It's cost of doing business. It's just the way it is today. Well, what you're looking at is 201 is the number that's the average. Not the high, it's the average of what it costs you for a data breach. And yes, it kills your reputation. It hurts you with clients. You may have to pay some fines. You may have to redo the world. But if you're thinking this is a low number, the average, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is that most businesses have somewhere on average around 30 employees, and they have 300 clients or customers. If you multiply that out, they usually deal with this for at least 3 months. Your average data breach is somewhere around 200 grand. So guess what? If you jump to the end and say, I got cybersecurity insurance, the average coverage is only $50,000 or $100,000. unless you pay a lot more and you really know what you're talking about. So let's look at if he really challenges.
Hackers are everywhere. From Ashley Madison to JP Morgan, from Jennifer Lawrence to the federal government, our biggest celebrities, corporations, and institutions have all been the targets of devastating cyber attacks. I wanted to see how bad a hack can get, so I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas at DEF CON, the biggest hacker convention of the year, and see what they found. This might not have been the best idea. DEF CON is the biggest hacker convention of the year. It's where thousands of hackers come to hear talks, to demonstrate their newest hacks. It's actually a place that's so dangerous to be on the internet that they tell you to turn off the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on your phone, and they tell you not to use the ATMs too, because those can be hacked as well. This is the DEF CON ballroom. This is where the main recruitments are happening. It's pretty wild. I think this is car hacking village. This car's locked. Can you get me in? I'll unlock it for you. Should be good. Hacking is no longer like this fringe activity. And if you are at DEF CON, there's a good chance that you're here because you want to learn what could happen to you or your company. Anyone here first time in SCCPI? Correct. I invited Chris to hack me with his team, but they're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
We help people with human security issues by testing vulnerabilities for like a network test, but it's for the people network. We test those vulnerabilities, see where the holes are, and then help people learn so they can patch them.
Can we try some of this? Can we try some?
Yeah,
See if it works.
Yeah, we probably could have Star Visser here make some phone calls.
Let's do it.
Sure. Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider. You give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today, so I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for usage information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. They use mine and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds, Jessica gets my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message. Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account. Okay,
Jessica used my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my
Thank you
password.
so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password right now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call. I really thought that my cell phone company would protect me. I mean, like, this is the most basic stuff, and they're not doing it. And if they're not doing it, you know all these other businesses aren't doing it either. Anyone with a phone and an internet connection can do social engineering. But I was curious, what can a hacker with serious coding skills do?
Well, DEF CON is the world's biggest hacking convention. It's hacking everything. Hacking social, hacking hardware, hacking software, hacking various systems.
I asked Dan Tentler, a well-known security researcher, to turn all of his firepower on me.
I did get into quite a number of things that I
you start hacking?
I quickly found your Squarespace blog and had an idea. Basically what I did was created a bogus Squarespace site and sent an email to you, a fish asking you to go to this website, run the certificate install.
And I did it, because I'm an idiot.
It gave me access to your computer, and I created several fake pop-ups that looked like system pop-ups that would ask you for your credentials.
You didn't even have to have my password. I gave them to you.
Yeah. So I stole your 1Password keychain.
And 1Password is where I store all my other passwords. So effectively by...
And your social security number and your Amex stuff and all your stock trading and bank information. I can send email to everyone in this room as you. I am you right now, if I wanted to be. If my evilness is working correctly, it should actually be taking pictures of your desktop and pictures through your webcam every 2 minutes. And I have been watching you for about 2 days now. In coffee shops, at your mom's house, on a plane, you're editing stuff.
Oh my god, so this is literally...
Every 2 minutes.
Through my webcam.
Yeah, through this guy.
How badly could you have messed up my life?
I could have made you homeless. I could have made you homeless and penniless.
How would you make me homeless?
Like, I have control of your digital life in its entirety. I have all your credentials, I have all your access to all your financial information, all your work information, all your personal information. I can pay people with your bank account or your Amex account. I am you. I can fully impersonate. The only thing I couldn't doctor would be like the fingerprints.
This is like as bad as it gets.
It's ridiculous, yeah, it's bad.
So it turns out that Dan Tendler is very good at his job. I mean, he hacked the hell out of me. He got everything. Well, I mean, frankly, I want to take my computer and throw it into the deepest part of the ocean, and I want to become a hermit, and I want to never touch a piece of technology again. Because, holy shit, that was everything. That was the keys to my entire life. And he just pulled them out of his pocket.
They don't have to play fair. It's just phone solicitation. That's my favorite line. The first thing I really encourage people, and I know we have financial folks in the room too, but the first thing is to get with your bank. If you don't know, your withdrawals from a commercial bank account are not covered by the FDIC. You personally are covered in all kinds of ways for your personal accounts, but for a business account, any kind of withdrawal is covered by the Uniform Commercial Code. And it's all different by different states, and it's all archaic. And the bottom line is, if you don't catch it within 24 hours, you've lost that money. So the biggest thing that I work with tons of community banks, and they love for you to contact them, and they have answers for you. They're not responsible for if you have this loss, but they have answers. They can set up alerts for you. And they want to do that for you because they don't want to get entangled into a legal battle with you. They'll win because they have more money, but this is the big thing that most people do not understand. If you have a debit card and use it for business, you need to get rid of it immediately. It's the #1 fraud. It's the same issue. It's not covered by FDIC. It's not covered by all your credit card folks, Amex, any of that kind of stuff. You're covered very well again personally, but if you have a debit card for business and it gets compromised in any way, you've essentially lost all that money. It may not be feasible for you, but if you're going to do online banking on the same computer that you do Facebook or any of those kind of things, you need to do incognito or in private browsing at the best, or you're really smarter to use the approved app on your phone. It's actually more secure. I talked about the alerts already. They'll set them up for as low as $100 if you have. If you have a regular withdrawal, they can even flag that, and so they know that if your payroll account gets taken over and it gets diverted to somewhere else, that they can identify that. 2 signatures on every wire transfer. Wires are done every day, and every day I have someone call me where 50, 75, $200,000 was wired out. They didn't catch it in time, and they're just out of that money. Your number one threat today is unvetted IT support. Now we have doctors, lawyers, CPAs in the room. All of you are board certified. You had to have education. You had to do an exam. If you do something that's criminal, you can lose your license and not be able to practice. In IT, it's totally unregulated. None of that is required. But the new thing today is called vetting, and it's 5 pillars. The first pillar is you have to have a competency and a specialization. That sounds kind of dumb, but you go to a certain type of lawyer, doctor. You should do the same thing for your IT support. For us, we're a Microsoft Gold Certified partner. We are the elite tier. Yes, it's something we had to purchase, but we also had to do a high level of training. We have to meet goals for how much do we implement, and we have to have all the regulation compliance that Microsoft has to be able to show for our customers. The other part of being vetted is they need to be a C corporation. It's actually outlined by the FBI. You should be dealing with an organization where the ownership is listed by the Secretary of State. And on top of that, they have a board of directors to protect you from fraud, so whatever your money is being put forward to is not just kind of thrown away, and you actually get what you're supposed to be getting. I already talked about the regulation compliance. It's not very well done in our industry, and it's something where you should not be fake news. You should have it on your website. If you go to matrixsource.com, vetted IT support, you can pull down our bylaws. You can pull down our articles of incorporation. You can go to the next thing, which is that's required for vetting, which is you can pull up our trademark. So you should have a value proposition as trademark. Ours is streamlined technology, so we make no money on billable hours or the sale of product. Streamlined technology is what we do to reduce risk and complexity. And finally, you need to be a published expert. If you actually can do what you're saying you're doing, you need to have one or more books on the competencies you do. You're reading the stat correctly. The International Data Corporation says less than 10% of regulated or unregulated customers are using unvetted IT support. Now, Mark Zuckerberg has made a lot of enemies on his way to billions and billions of friends, but social media is your biggest weakness. You put too much out there, there's too much time spent on it, those accounts are hacked. If you're using the same password, then everything you have is hacked. You can see the stats here. You're not paying people to be on social media, but some people are. And it's a big time waster. The biggest thing in my mind is they listed as number 4, but I would put at the top of the list is you can never get your reputation back. If you remember the story, this was Burger King, where the employee put a picture on Facebook of him stomping on the lettuce and doing things to what you're getting through the drive-thru. You never recover from that. This franchise lost and went bankrupt. They had 7 stores in their city. They all closed within a month. Now, we talk a lot about you need to be an authority and you need to write a book. One of my best board members is a former chairman of the board of Ingram Book. And he's been friends with Ronald Reagan. He's been at the bookwarming for Oprah, and he got John Grisham his start. But one thing he told me, he says, Kevin, you'll never make money selling books. But listen, the ransom notes that you get make a ton of money. 2.5 trillion, if you remember. And it gets worse. There's all kinds of stuff out there. It's getting even more creative. This is my favorite of the popcorn. It's kind of called that because if you do a certain download, you'll get this. And you get the offer you can get all your data back and unencrypted, but you got to turn in 2 of your friends and send this to them. We play this fun game. We have a tool from Microsoft. And we talk about Azure. And hey, you want to move to the cloud. And people always say, oh, we only use like 3 or 4 things in the cloud. Well, the average company is using somewhere around 80 different cloud applications. If you're worried about where is all my customer information going or the important stuff about what we're doing, it's all just kind of leaking away from you and you have no idea. If you're sitting here thinking, gosh, I can get some courage, stop scaring me, Kevin. Every one of you are sitting and living in a state that has a privacy law. Whether you know it or not, you may or may not be a public company, but you come under both federal and state privacy laws. The biggest one I always talk about is FACTA. It's Fair Credit Reporting. Everybody kind of thinks, oh, I get my free credit report. Yeah. But hidden in there is you're responsible for appropriately destroying customer and employee information. If any of that gets out, if you didn't shred something, then you're responsible for that, and it's a data breach, and you have to pay these fines. And in Oklahoma, it's as rampant as everywhere else. You just don't hear it. You're numb to it. The Oklahoma employment site was hacked for the state. Everybody that was on unemployment and looking for a job just got hurt again. The OU data center for the Sooners, tons of students and all their parents got outed with all their Social Security number information, and now they have to deal with that for the next 20 years or more. And the little old Sonic drive-ins where you get your hamburger, you don't think about how many customers they deal with. It's huge. It's huge what the credit card breach is. The biggest thing I teach all my clients is stop using email. If you don't have a deliverable, meaning if you don't have an invoice, if you don't have something to attach, you probably shouldn't be sending that. Pick up the phone and call them or go see them. You'll have a better relationship. The stat I showed, the loss of productivity, 80% of all your breaches are coming through email, and the average American businessman or woman is spending somewhere around 4 hours a day wasting their time on email where they should be talking to customers and do what they really do. So let's talk about the protection. Every day someone picks up the phone and they call Johnny Bag of Donuts in the Yellow Pages, or they look on the internet and they have them come to their place of work and they do whatever. If you don't do anything else, you should have a reciprocal non-disclosure with anybody that does IT support. I don't care if it's Best Buy, I don't care who it is. They're coming into your house. If you don't have a contract with anybody who's doing IT support and you have a grievance, then you have no basis to complain. So not only are they vetted, and I talked about the 5 pillars, but do you realize that you're actually held accountable to the terms on somebody's website if they do IT support for you? Most of the time it says there's no liability and they own all the information that they touch. It's a scary thing. If you go to court, That's what you'll be told. Unfortunately, as Americans, unless you are a certified professional and you have a board and you're required to do continuing education, nobody gets education on anything in America. After you leave college, that's pretty much it. You might get to see a webinar every now and then. What I've provided for you free is data breach training that will teach you how to identify phishing. It'll also identify all the other things that are a data breach. And then you have that weekly update. On top of that, we have weekly to monthly. We have all kinds of updates. That's no sales. It's just simply information that's on a business level. It's not business bits and bytes, and it's at Matrix Force Pulse. You really, though, are required. You probably get a physical every now and then. Most businesses never have their IT evaluated. What's coming next year is an ugly acronym called GDPR. It's coming from Europe, and it's a data and privacy regulation that everybody is going to be forced to pick up and use. It's going to be embraced by the federal government, and you're going to be required to do these things next year. If you're not doing them today, you should have a risk assessment. Just kind of know where you're at. You really should have the top policies provided for you. We had the fun ditty about passwords. This is the biggest thing I can tell you, and probably the most important if you don't take anything else from this session, is you need to implement a mnemonic and two-factor authentication, meaning every service you have, you should get a text or a phone call in addition to the password that you use. Nobody needs a password manager because it's too easy to get hacked. If they get hacked, you have your whole world. You can come up with a mnemonic. You can pick a color, you can pick a phrase, you can pick something, you can put a number that's something relevant to you. If you pick a letter somewhere in there, in the middle, I pick the third letter, you then can just change the letter. So if I log on to my computer, I can say, hey, it's Kevin, and I know that the letter's K. If I log on to Facebook, I can change it to F. And so it's the same password, but it's just a different mnemonic. And I really don't care because it's easy for me to understand and remember, and I'm getting a text or a phone call to verify it. If you do these things, you have 90% of your worries go away, and some of that stress that Clint talked about. If no one's come to your office yet and said, hey, you need cybersecurity insurance, the first thing that they will tell you is, and nobody ever hears it, is encryption is your only safe harbor for a data breach. What that means is if you have a data breach and you have encryption on your phone, on your computer, then you don't have to worry about publicizing that. And you know that if they go try to access that information, that they will have to have the key to actually access that information. What you really should have, though, is services to wipe, lock, restart, all those kind of things. Know where the device is in case it gets lost. BitLocker is free, has been for 10 years. It's going to be required for businesses on servers next year. The trend is Department of Defense, and then medical, and then finally regular business. All medical organizations have been required to encrypt their servers and workstations this year. Is a kid using your computer to surf the web? Or do you just kind of go everywhere and look up everything? It's required today to have web filtering. Web filtering is also, the browser is your second thing. Email is first, Second thing is your browser. If you don't have web filtering just to protect your reputation, everywhere you go is being tracked. Everything you look up is being tracked. If you don't do anything else, your IT support can go for no cost and block out certain things that you want to block out. Porn sites, playbook, all those kind of things that you kind of think about, that can be done for free. Today, there's machine learning for web filtering that will block out ransomware and everything so you don't get to it, in addition to pornography and whatever else you want to block. Cybersecurity should really be a marketing tool for you. Tell me, what are you telling to customers that you are really concerned and have their privacy at mind? One of the things that we do is, in addition to just having an exam, is we do an executive summary that you can publish externally. Doesn't have all the details, but it tells people, here's what some of your risks are, and it kind of shows that you're serious about it. In addition to that, we have a shield. So we're one of the 10% of vetted IT support in the nation, and shows that you actually have a third party that's doing that. And unfortunately, CPAs are not qualified for HIPAA, for data breach. You need to have vetted IT support that has all the regulation compliance for that. This is a must. If this is not on your radar today, you need to start evaluating cybersecurity insurance. You can do all the things I talked about, but you still have the capability and probably will have a breach, something out of your control. Now, I also tell people that for no cost, you can set up a Bitcoin account. I go on TV all the time, all over the nation. It takes 3 to 5 days to set up a Bitcoin account. During that time, you have no access to your computer, and you go to the next level of what the ransom is. So you need to have that. You also need to have an incident response, because it's going to happen. You need to have an incident response for your customers. You need to have an email that's already set up. You need to have a page on your website that talks about it. You need to have a blog post that's ready to post. So I talked about the green lantern starting off, and you can just ignore this, or you can step up and try to use it as a marketing tool and also protect your clients. You need to understand kind of where you are, if you have a problem or not, and have an action plan. If you'll see me afterwards, if you'll turn in your application if you want to do the data breach training, it's free. I'm doing that as a public service just like I do on TV all over the nation. I have a copy of EasyPray, to give you, and I have an invitation for CyberPray. It has all the stuff that's in it. And if you're not doing an exam, it's less than the cost of a high-end computer. You spend more on coffee and office supplies for an employee than you do for the web filtering and to protect those devices and encrypt them and have the two-factor authentication. It's called Overwatch. And finally, there's this ugly secret called the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The average IT support network administrator runs about $89,000, no matter whether it's New York or California or little old Oklahoma. For a flat cost, we cover all those things for you. Nobody has a system plan. Nobody has a risk assessment. Nobody is generally using vetted IT support. So remember the green lantern, and everyone have the courage to act. Thank you.